and I like it because, again, it's another culture. And I was very, I treated that with kid gloves. So when I was doing the research, I remember calling Arizona. I was looking for an indigenous, I called the libraries. I was looking for an indigenous librarian who I could talk to and kind of interview, get some information, ask if I was writing things in the correct way. I actually, in one of the earlier versions, I had a DNA phrase that I was going to put in, but I took it out. Even though I got it verified that was correct, the reason that I took it out was because it was not the American English palate would not easily be able to pronounce it. So I was like, I'm not trying to like complicate it. So I took that out, but that's the level of detail and method that I used in trying to present someone else's culture. I definitely went to them to make sure it was sanctioned and it was okay. So that's something cool. And then in Arizona also, the Black history of it is that the first Black novelist in Arizona, Margaret J. Campbell, she did an interesting thing. She moved there for health reasons, and she dug a hole and she built herself an underground house. So I thought when I learned that story, I thought that visually that would play well. Like, that's an interesting thing to see. Some lady digging a hole, And so that's the other story that I put in there. And then you mentioned the Grand Canyon. We also do fly over the Grand Canyon in a hot air balloon, because why else wouldn't we? How else would we get home but to travel in a hot air balloon? And so then we get a lesson about our national parks and how people of color are underrepresented in these spaces. And Jayla, don't you think you can't go somewhere like this because you don't see a lot of people look like you? Your people built this country. This land is yours too, So that kind of stuff. So that's what's going on in Arizona. And so I talked about the similarities and the differences. Another similarity is in Alaska. We talked about the land a little bit, the caribou, the seals, the polar bears. We talked about the aurora borealis. So nature was a character, if you will, and the Grand Canyon kind of stands in and is that kind of character in this book as well. So that's Arizona, and it's called Arizona Antics, and it's fun. It's fun. I think they have a good time. There's a tea party, there's a hot air balloon ride, there's learning going on, and poofing in and out of the picture, disappearing in the way they like to do. So that's Arizona. And Arkansas completes the A's, actually. So now I have 4 books out, and that is all the A's. So I'm pretty geeked about that, because now I'm moving on to the C's, but from a marketing standpoint, there are all sorts of things I can do with that. So yeah, and then Arkansas is the next book out.
I think that I especially like? Many in communities of color, we don't know each other's stories, and we don't lift each other up, or we'll think like we're the only ones. And to understand the dark history of this country, the history of oppression, you have to understand that this has been going on for a while and to many different people. And there are many African Americans who have Native American in their family, and they don't know anything about it. And so to have this and this flow, the Auntie Yaya, she was there, Mona's her friend, and you get to learn about that. That is just like so perfect for this time, because as you looked at the Black Lives Matter protests, you saw everybody.
Everybody.
And it was like suddenly something had hit, and you saw everybody walking side by side, shoulder to shoulder. So it's like, how perfect is there that this book is like, it wasn't just because, there are all these different people.